It was the 45th birthday of my daughter, Ayana, and I had shown up at her home early, carrying the cake I had specially requested from her most cherished bakery. The cake cost $200, but for my one and only child, no expense was ever too great. I rapped on the door with a beaming smile, anticipating her face would illuminate with joy, just as it always did when she was a little girl. Yet when she swung the door open, her face was a mask of pure irritation. "Oh, it's you," she grumbled, her eyes avoiding mine. "Happy birthday, my darling," I declared, presenting the cake with its candles perfectly arranged. "I brought your favorite chocolate with strawberries, just like you loved as a child." Ayana heaved a deep sigh as though my offering was an excruciating weight upon her. "Mom, we have to talk," she stated flatly, allowing me to step inside without a single word of gratitude for the dessert. We took seats in the living room of her stunning home, a house I had entirely paid for when she and Jabari were married. It was a sum of $55,000 that I had withdrawn from my life savings, money I had painstakingly saved by working grueling double shifts as a nurse for 42 years. "You know, Mom," Ayana started, her voice laced with the icy tone she had cultivated in recent years, "I've been thinking a great deal about my birthday, about gifts, and about what would genuinely bring me joy." I nodded with immense enthusiasm. "Of course, my dearest. Just tell me what your heart desires, and I will make it yours. A vacation, a piece of jewelry, perhaps that new car you were talking about?" Ayana stared directly into my eyes, and the sight there sent a horrifying chill down my spine. It was unadulterated contempt. "The one thing I would treasure most as a birthday gift," she articulated slowly, relishing every syllable, "is for you to simply die." My entire world froze. I genuinely felt as if my heart had been violently torn from my chest. Her declaration resonated in my ears like a never-ending nightmare. My child, my very own daughter, had wished for my death as a birthday present. "What? What did you just utter?" I barely managed to whisper, feeling hot tears begin to flood my eyes. "You heard me," she went on, with a coldness that sliced through me like a blade. "I am sick of you, Mom. Sick of your incessant calls, your surprise visits, of you constantly being here and bothering me. My life would be infinitely easier and more joyful if you would just vanish." My hands began to tremble uncontrollably. After 72 years of life and 45 years as her mother, I never, in my wildest nightmares, imagined I would hear those devastating words escape her lips. "Ayana," I choked out between heart-wrenching sobs, "I am your mother. I have provided you with everything. I have sacrificed my entire world for you." "Precisely," she cut in, rising from the sofa. "And that is why you are completely smothering me. I am unable to breathe with your relentless presence. I crave my freedom. I need you to allow me to live my own life, free from your endless drama and your emotional demands." The $200 cake remained in my grasp, its candles starting to weep wax. Everything I had envisioned for that day, warm embraces, shared laughter, perhaps a celebratory family dinner, had disintegrated into nothing. "But my dear," I pleaded one last time, "I only want to be near you, to be an integral part of your life. You are everything I have." "And that is the core of the problem," she retorted, folding her arms across her chest. "The fact that I am all you possess. Go find a life for yourself and finally leave me in peace." I struggled to my feet, my legs quivering, still clutching the cake that now felt like a cruel joke. "I cannot believe you are saying these things to me," I stammered, "after all that I have done for you." "Everything you've done?" She cackled with biting sarcasm. "Mom, everything you have ever done has been for your own selfish fulfillment, to feel essential to maintain control over my existence. But I am not a little girl any longer." I moved toward the door, feeling as though every single step was draining years from my life. Upon reaching the threshold, I glanced back a final time, desperately searching for a flicker of remorse in her eyes, some trace of the precious girl she used to be. But all I found was impatience. impatience for me to be gone so she could at last celebrate her birthday, free of the burden I represented. "Happy birthday, Ayana," I whispered, and I stepped out of that house, pulling the door closed behind me. I did not realize then that it would be the very last time I would cross that threshold as the mother who had given up everything, because my daughter had no idea that she had just stirred something within me that had been asleep for decades. I made it back to my little apartment on shaky legs, my heart shattered into a million pieces. The $200 cake met its end in the garbage can, its melted candles a perfect mirror of the tears that streamed relentlessly down my face. I collapsed onto my old sofa, the very same one where I had rocked Ayana as an infant, where I had read her countless stories for years, where I had wept with joy each time she called me Mom. How did I arrive at this point? How could my own daughter, the baby I had nurtured in my womb for 9 months, wish for my demise with such utter coldness? I started to recall everything. Every single thing I had sacrificed for her across the past 45 years. When she was 4 and battled pneumonia, I took on triple shifts at the hospital to afford her medication, which was $1,300 in antibiotics my insurance refused to cover, money I acquired by selling my own late mother's jewelry. When she was 16 and dreamed of the prom, I labored through entire weekends for 5 straight months to afford that pink gown costing $850. I still remember how her eyes lit up as she put it on. "Thank you, Mom. You're the greatest in the world," she had exclaimed, embracing me tightly. During college, when she switched her major for a 3rd time, I covered every single semester without uttering one complaint, a total of $45,000. It was money I secured by taking a second mortgage on my home. "Do not worry, my sweet," I would reassure her each time she phoned me in tears. "Your education is the most critical thing." When she married Jabari, I orchestrated and funded their entire wedding, $38,000. So she could experience the wedding she always dreamed of. It featured the most magnificent ballroom in the city, the most exquisite flowers, and the menu she selected without a thought to the cost. "I want my princess to have it all," I told her while I signed check after check. And then there was the house, the very house where she had just so profoundly humiliated me. When Ayana and Jabari chose to purchase their first property, I did not waver for an instant. "Don't you worry about the down payment," I assured them. "I will handle it." That was $155,000 from my personal savings, the fund I had been building for my own retirement. But it did not stop there. When the twins were born 6 years ago, I transformed into the complimentary babysitter. Every evening, Ayana wanted to go out with Jabari. Every time they made plans and needed a sitter, I was there, never asking for a single dollar, delighted to assist my daughter in living the life she always imagined. When Jabari was laid off last year, who covered the mortgage for 9 months? I did. It was $18,000 that I withdrew from my pension, money that required me to subsist on rice and beans for weeks to make my income last. And when the twins required braces, another $4,500 was covered by me without a moment's hesitation. "Don't worry," I told them, observing their worried expressions. "This is what grandparents are for." I rose from the sofa and walked to my desk, where I stored every receipt, all the evidence of each and every cent I had lavished on my daughter and her family. There were boxes upon boxes of papers I had saved, not from a place of mistrust, but because it swelled my heart with pride to recollect all I had managed to provide for them. I began to calculate the figures. Raising Ayana from infancy until she was independent, roughly $200,000. Her college education, $45,000. The wedding, $38,000. The down payment for the house, $155,000. The mortgage payments during Jabari's unemployment, $10,000. The twins' braces, $4,500. The birthday and Christmas presents across all those years, easily another $12,000. The grand total was utterly devastating, exceeding $470,000, nearly $500,000 that I had poured into my daughter's happiness. And all of it culminated in hearing that her most profound wish was for me to die. Tears splattered onto the documents as I tallied the numbers. Had I placed that money into a savings account with compounding interest, I would possess more than $650,000 today. I could be residing in a lovely home, exploring the globe and relishing a comfortable retirement instead of pinching pennies in this cramped apartment. But no, I had opted to invest in love. I had opted to believe that the money spent on my daughter was an investment well made, that every sacrifice would be worthwhile because, ultimately, I would have a daughter who cherished me and would care for me in my old age. How incredibly foolish I had been. I grabbed the phone and dialed Ayana's number. I had to hear her voice just once more. I had to get confirmation that she truly spoke those monstrous words. "What do you want now, Mom?" She responded with irritation after the sixth ring. "Ayana, I must know if you genuinely meant what you said to me earlier," I asked, my voice trembling. "Of course I meant it," she answered, devoid of any remorse. "Mom, it is time for you to grasp that I require space. Your obsession with me is not healthy." "Obsession?" I echoed, disbelieving. "You're calling a mother's profound love an obsession?" "Yes, precisely that. And I truly hope that after today's events you have finally received the message. I need you to honor my boundaries and allow me to live my own life." I ended the call without another word. There had been no mistake. My daughter honestly felt that my love was a crushing weight, that my very existence in her life was a problem that she desperately needed to eliminate. That night, sleep was impossible. Then I remained awake, staring at the ceiling, replaying every precious moment we had ever shared, every embrace, every "I love you, Mom" that had passed her lips. Was it all a complete fabrication? Or had I simply nurtured a daughter who grew so profoundly selfish that she was incapable of seeing past her own desires? At 4 in the morning, a profound shift occurred within me. The sorrow started to morph into something else entirely, into rage, into righteous indignation, and into the stark realization that I had been exploited, manipulated, and then cast aside like a piece of trash. My daughter wanted me dead. Very well. Perhaps it was time to grant her exactly what she had wished for. The following morning, I awoke with a level of mental clarity I had not felt in years. The profound sadness had been replaced by something far more potent: resolve. If my daughter desired for me to vanish from her life, I would oblige, but certainly not in the manner she anticipated. I dressed in my finest attire and set out with a clear and deliberate mission. My first destination was the bank where Ayana and I held a joint account for her home's emergency fund. It was an account I had established just in case, into which I had placed $22,000 to cover any unexpected issues that could occur. "Good morning, Mrs. Calloway," the manager, Mr. Purnell, who had known me for many years, greeted me. "How may I assist you today?" "I wish to close joint account number 458728891. I stated, with a smile that he took for simple friendliness, but was, in truth, an expression of pure retribution. "Are you certain? That account holds a significant balance of $22,000, he cautioned, glancing at his computer monitor. "Absolutely certain. I want to move all of that money into my personal account," I answered, signing the necessary forms with a firm hand. Witnessing those $22,000 being restored to my own account filled me with a sense of gratification I had not known for years. It was merely the start. My next stop was the mortgage loan office. Over the past year, while Jabari was without a job, I had co-signed on their mortgage. This meant that if they failed to pay, the burden would fall upon me. However, it also signified that I held rights to that property. "Mrs. Calloway," the loan officer, Ms. Hightower, welcomed me. "What can I do for you?" "I would like to examine the mortgage contract where I am listed as a co-signer," I clarified. "I must understand my precise rights and responsibilities." As she retrieved the files, I vividly recalled the day I had signed those documents. Ayana had wept with profound emotion. "Thank you, Mom. I have no idea what we would do without you. You are our absolute savior," she had declared, embracing me fiercely. Jabari had also expressed his gratitude, vowing they would never miss a payment. "Here are the documents," Ms. Hightower announced, setting a substantial folder before me. "As the co-signer, you are liable for the payments should the primary holders default, but you also possess the right to reclaim the property if you believe the debtors will be unable to meet their obligations." "Precisely," I affirmed, carefully inspecting the paperwork. "Is there an issue with the payments?" she inquired with professional worry. "I am assessing the situation," I responded, placing a copy of all the papers into my handbag. "What steps would I need to take if I chose to exercise my co-signer rights?" "You would be required to prove a risk of default or that there have already been substantial delays. In your case, I see that you covered 9 months of payments last year, which already stands as adequate proof that the primary holders do not possess financial stability." Perfect. Jabari had lost his job again just last week, a piece of information Ayanna had shared without considering the consequences. She believed she was indirectly asking for assistance, but what she was actually doing was handing me the very ammunition for my revenge. I departed from that office with a triumphant smile. My darling daughter had no clue about the tempest that was gathering. My third stop was my personal attorney, Mr. Jamal Langston, a 72-year-old man and a friend of my late husband. He was aware of my entire family dynamic and had observed my sacrifices for Ayanna for decades. "Imani," he greeted me warmly, "what brings you to my office? It is unusual to see you here." "Jamal, I require your assistance with a matter of great importance," I informed him, taking a seat opposite his desk. "I want to fundamentally alter my will." His eyebrows rose in astonishment. "Has something occurred with Ayanna?" I recounted everything. Every venomous word, every gesture of contempt, the chilling manner in which she had wished for my death on her own birthday. Jamal listened silently, his face growing more solemn with every detail. "Imani," he said at last, "I am so deeply sorry for what you are enduring. I never imagined Ayanna was capable of such a thing after all you have done for her." "Neither did I sighed. "But my mind is made up. I wish to change my will and bequeath everything to a charitable foundation. I also wish to establish a trust for my grandchildren, but Ayanna is not to have any access to that fund until they reach the age of 25. "That is entirely possible," Jamal confirmed, making notes. "Do you also wish to alter the beneficiaries of your life insurance?" "Absolutely. Anything that bears Ayanna's name, I want it changed. My daughter wishes for my death, but when that day comes, she will not see a single cent from me." We spent 3 hours meticulously reviewing all my legal documents, my $110,000 life insurance policy, my savings, my apartment, my investments. Everything once intended for Ayanna would now be directed to the Orphans Foundation, where I had volunteered for years. "There is one more thing," I stated as we were concluding. "I want you to draft all the necessary paperwork to reclaim the house where Ayanna resides. As the mortgage co-signer, I have legal rights, and her husband has just lost his job again." Jamal's eyes shone with comprehension. "Now I understand your objective. Are you certain you wish to take it this far?" "Completely certain," I declared with a firmness that even took me by surprise. My daughter informed me that her life would be simpler if I were gone. Well, I am going to be gone, but not before I ensure she comprehends exactly what it feels like to live without me and without everything I have provided for her. By the time I departed from Jamal's office, darkness had already fallen. I strolled through the streets of my neighborhood feeling completely revitalized, as if I had awoken from a very long and troubled dream. For 45 years, my existence had revolved around Ayanna. I had set aside my own aspirations and wants to provide her with everything she desired, but that was over. I returned to my apartment and poured a glass of wine, something I had not done in ages. Making a toast to myself felt entirely new, yet it was incredibly freeing. I pulled out my phone and dialed a number I had stored months prior, but had never found the courage to call. It belonged to a travel agency that catered to retirees, offering packages for living overseas. "Good evening, this is Imani Calloway," I said when the call was answered. "I saw your advertisement about living in Ghana. Could you please send me all the information? Certainly, Mrs. Calloway. Ghana is an exceptionally popular choice among our clients. We offer various programs from short-term stays to permanent relocation. What specific information are you looking for? Everything, I answered without a second thought. I want to know absolutely everything about how a 72-year-old woman can begin a new life in Ghana. After ending the call, I stood by the window, gazing out at the city where I had spent my entire life. Soon, all of this would become just a distant memory. My daughter had requested my disappearance as a birthday present, and I intended to fulfill her wish in the most dramatic way imaginable. What Ayanna failed to realize was that her wish was on the verge of becoming her most terrifying nightmare. The subsequent days were an intense whirlwind of emotions and clandestine preparations. Each morning I awoke with a combination of heartache and resolve that propelled my plan forward. It felt as though I had been roused from a prolonged slumber where my sole purpose was to satisfy my daughter, and now, at last, I was living for myself. On Thursday morning, my telephone rang. It was Ayanna. For a fleeting second, my heart leaped, hoping that perhaps she had a change of heart, that she might apologize for the monstrous words she had spoken. How foolish I still was. "Mom," she began, using that icy voice she had recently adopted, "I need you to do something for me." Not even a hello or a how have you been? She got straight to her request, as if I were her personal aide. "What is it you need?" I inquired, intrigued to see the extent of her audacity. "The twins have a school presentation on Thursday, and Jabari and I have a crucial work dinner. Could you please watch them for the evening?" The irony was exquisite. The very woman who had wished me dead for her birthday was now asking me to look after her children as if nothing had occurred, as if I were a constantly available resource. "I cannot," I stated plainly. "What do you mean, you can't?" she asked, genuinely astounded. It was clear she was unaccustomed to me refusing her. "I have other plans," I fibbed, a smile on my face that she could not detect. "What plans could you possibly have?" she questioned with a condescending tone that stung me deeply, as if at 72 I had no right to a life of my own. "Plans that are none of your concern," I retorted, maintaining my composure, "and you'll have to find another babysitter." "But Mom, I can't find a sitter with such little notice. Besides, since when do you bill me for watching your own grandchildren?" There it was, the emotional blackmail she had wielded against me for years, but it was not going to succeed this time. "Since you informed me that your greatest gift would be my death," I replied coldly, "if you want me to vanish from your life, I am beginning right now." A lengthy silence followed on her end of the line. Finally, Ayanna burst into a sarcastic laugh. "Seriously, you're going to punish me like a spoiled child," she said. I assumed the theatrics would be over after a few days. "This isn't theatrics, Ayanna. It's honoring your wish. You wanted me to disappear, so that is what I'm going to do." "Fine," she snapped with annoyance. "If you want to act so childishly, that's your choice. But don't come to me crying later when you find yourself all alone." She disconnected without a goodbye. Perfect. Each new interaction only solidified that I was making the absolute right choice. That afternoon, I returned to the bank, this time to perform an action I never imagined I would: withdraw the majority of my savings in cash. It was $32,000 that I placed into an envelope and secured in my personal safe, the funds I would require for my new existence in Ghana. I also contacted the travel agency to confirm my arrangements: a flight to Accra for the upcoming Wednesday, with the possibility of an indefinite stay. The initial payment was $5,500, a sum I paid without hesitation. It was the most expensive and wisest investment I had made in a very long time. On Friday morning, an unexpected visitor arrived. It was my neighbor, Tamika, a 69-year-old woman from the adjacent apartment with whom I had built a strong friendship over the last 6 years. "Imani," she remarked, seated in my living room with a coffee cup. "You seem different lately. Did something happen?" Tamika had been a quiet observer of all my sacrifices for Ayanna. She had watched me cancel our plans to rush to my daughter's side whenever she called. She had seen the bags of gourmet groceries I would buy for Ayana, while I myself subsisted on canned soup to stretch my budget. I told her everything, every agonizing detail of what transpired on Ayana's birthday and all the arrangements I had been orchestrating throughout the week. "My goodness, Imani," Tameka whispered, her eyes welling with tears. "I cannot believe Ayana would say something so vicious to you after everything you have sacrificed for her. The most terrible part is that she said it as if it were the most ordinary thing in the world," I clarified, "as if I were an annoyance in her life that had to be disposed of." "And you are truly going to Ghana?" "Yes," I answered with conviction. "My ticket is already purchased. I am leaving on Wednesday." Tameka gently took my hands. "You know you have my unconditional support, don't you? What Ayana did to you is inexcusable." "There is something else," I said, my voice dropping to a whisper. "I am going to require your assistance with something critically important." I laid out my entire strategy, explaining how I wanted Ayana to believe I had actually died, at least for a period. Tameka was to be my confederate, the one to discover my vacant apartment and my farewell letter. "It's genius," Tameka murmured, a mischievous glint in her eye. "That ungrateful girl is finally going to learn what it truly means to lose you." "Will you help me?" "Of course I will. In fact, I believe it's precisely the wake-up call Ayana so desperately needs." That evening, I composed the most significant letter of my entire life. The letter Ayana would find on her table, the one that would alter everything indefinitely. I wrote and rewrote each word, ensuring it communicated exactly what I needed to express. "My dear Ayana," the letter started, "you requested as a birthday gift that I vanish from your life, and I have chosen to honor your desire. By the time you read this, I will be far away, embarking on the life I should have lived years ago instead of sacrificing it all for you." I continued writing for hours, chronicling every single cent I had spent on her, every sacrifice I had made, and every opportunity I had forfeited by constantly being at her beck and call. But this was not a letter of bitterness. It was an educational one. I needed her to comprehend exactly what she had forfeited. "Enclosed with this letter, you will find all the legal documents I have signed this past week," I went on. "The revision of my will, the termination of your health insurance, which I was paying for, the formal notification that as co-signer of your mortgage, I am exercising my rights due to Jabari's employment instability, and the cessation of all financial support you received from me." It was a 23-page document that meticulously outlined every single thing that would now change in her life, now that I had disappeared just as she had wished. "Your life will be much simpler without me," the letter concluded, "but it will also be vastly more expensive. I sincerely hope that it is worth it." On Saturday evening, while I was packing my most vital possessions into 2 suitcases, I got a call from Ayana. I ignored it. She called 3 more times, but I just allowed the phone to continue ringing. I had nothing further to say to her. The following day, Sunday, Jabari showed up at my front door. He appeared worn out and desperate. "Imani," he pleaded, his voice full of desperation. "Ayana informed me about what happened between you. I realize what she said was terrible, but please do not do this to our family." "Do what?" I inquired, feigning ignorance. "Stop supporting us. Just cutting yourself off from our lives like this. The children need you. We need you." How fascinating. When Ayana desired to be rid of me, I was a pest. But now that they grasped all I did for them, suddenly I was indispensable. "Jabari," I stated calmly, "your wife was perfectly clear with me. My presence in her world is a burden she no longer wishes to carry. I am simply honoring her request." "But Imani, you know how Ayana gets when she's angry. She did not mean it." "Oh, she didn't?" "Because she sounded quite certain when she wished for my death as a birthday present." Jabari hung his head. He knew there was no argument he could make to defend the indefensible. "Please," he begged, "give me a chance to resolve this. I will speak with Ayana. I will make her see how wrong she is. "It is far too late for that," I answered, gently closing the door. "Give my grandchildren a kiss from me." Monday marked my final day in that city. I spent the morning visiting places that held significance in my life: the hospital where I had worked for 42 years, the park where I used to take Ayanna as a little girl, the church where I had married her father. It was my quiet goodbye to a life I had lived entirely for the sake of others. On Tuesday, I would commence a life I would at last live for myself. On Monday night, I was unable to sleep. It was not due to anxiety or remorse, but rather a peculiar excitement I had not felt in decades. It was the anticipation of a new adventure. At 72 years old, I was on the verge of starting the life I had always imagined but never had the courage to pursue. At 4:00 a.m. on Tuesday, Tamika rapped on my door just as we had arranged. She arrived with fresh coffee and a knowing grin that filled me with a surge of energy. "Ready for your grand escape?" she inquired with a wink. "More than ready," I affirmed, moving my 2 suitcases toward the door. "Do you have the extra keys to my apartment?" "Right here," she confirmed, displaying the set of keys I had provided her the previous night. "And I also have the letter for Ayanna and all the legal papers you plan to leave on her table." We had meticulously organized every detail. Tamika would hold off until Friday before going to Ayanna's home to present the documents, feigning that she had discovered my apartment empty and had grown concerned about my absence. She would be the one to deliver the news to Ayanna that I was gone for good. "Remember, T," I instructed as we hailed a cab, "you must appear extremely worried. Tell her I haven't answered my phone for 3 days, that you knocked on my door with no response, and that when you used the emergency keys, you found the apartment vacant with the letter on her table." "Don't you worry, Amani. I taught drama for 32 years. This is going to be the performance of a lifetime," Tamika assured me, with a mischievous grin. The taxi arrived promptly at 5:00 in the morning. As my luggage was loaded, I cast one final glance at my apartment. I had resided there for 16 years, yet strangely, I felt no sense of loss. It was as if I were finally breaking free from a prison of my own making. "To the airport?" the driver asked. "To the airport," I confirmed, feeling as though those 2 words signified the dawn of my new life. Throughout the 45-minute journey, I contemplated all I was leaving behind: my volunteer position at the hospital, my daily habits, the ceaseless worry over Ayanna and her troubles. But I also considered everything that lay ahead: the liberty to make my own choices, to spend my money on myself, to exist without the perpetual weight of my daughter's emotional needs. At the airport, as I awaited my flight, I received 3 more calls from Ayanna, which I ignored. Then a text message appeared. "Mom, you're being absurd. The kids are asking for you. Call me." I deleted the message without a reply. It was remarkable how, now that I was no longer at her constant disposal, she suddenly required my presence. The flight to Accra was long but tranquil. For the first time in ages, no one knew my whereabouts. No one could contact me to ask for favors, money, or my time. It was a thrilling sense of freedom I had not known since before becoming a mother. During the 13-hour flight, I documented in my journal everything that had unfolded in the past week, every single detail, every feeling, every choice that had brought me to this very moment. I wanted to remember precisely what it felt like to liberate myself from a toxic bond, even when that bond was with my own child. I landed in Accra on Wednesday evening, local time. An agent from the travel company was there to meet me at the airport, holding a sign bearing my name. He was a kind young man named Omari, who spoke impeccable English. "Mrs. Calloway." He welcomed me with a warm, genuine smile. "Welcome to Ghana. I trust you are prepared for a new adventure." "More than prepared," I responded, and for the first time in many weeks, my smile felt completely real. Omari drove me to a lovely, furnished apartment in the heart of Accra that he had arranged for me for 2 months, while I decided if I wished to make my stay permanent. It was compact but comfortable, with windows offering a view of a beautiful park and a glimpse of the sea. "Here is all the information regarding the city," Omari said, presenting me with a thick folder. "Dining recommendations, activities for people in your age group, Twi language classes, social clubs. I have also set up a meeting for you with a financial advisor for tomorrow afternoon to assist with the paperwork should you choose to stay permanently." That night, I enjoyed the best sleep I had experienced in years. There was no phone that could possibly ring, no one who required anything from me, and no obligations other than to care for myself. On Thursday morning, I rose early and set out to discover the city. I enjoyed breakfast at a delightful seaside cafe. I purchased fresh flowers for my temporary home, and for the first time in many decades, I spent money on something utterly frivolous, a stunning silk scarf that cost $110. I bought it simply because it caught my eye, without a thought for the price or whether that money might be better spent on my daughter's needs. As I meandered through the streets of Accra, I mentally tallied how much money I had spent on Ayana in just the last 6 years. Between the mortgage payments while Jabari was jobless, the twins' braces, the endless gifts, the fuel to go watch the kids, and the food I invariably brought on visits, it had been at least $55,000. $55,000 I could have used to explore the world, to live in comfort, to chase the dreams I had deferred for decades. Instead, I had bestowed it upon a daughter who saw my love as a burden and my presence as a hassle. At 3:00 in the afternoon, Accra time, I figured it would be 9:00 in the morning in my old city, Sa. Tamika would be getting ready to visit Ayana's home to hand over the letter that would alter everything. I found a bench by the sea and I waited. I knew that within a few hours, my phone would begin to ring frantically. Ayana would finally comprehend what it meant to truly lose me. At 6:00 in the evening, my phone began to buzz insistently. It was Ayana. I let it ring until it went to voicemail. It immediately rang once more. Ayana again. This time I picked up. "Mom!" she shrieked, her voice breaking with emotion. "Where are you? Tamika came to the house with a letter from you. She claims you vanished. What is happening?" "Hello, Ayana," I answered serenely, taking in the beauty of the Ghanaian sea as I talked. "Have you read the letter yet?" "Yes, I read it. Are you insane? How could you do this to us? Where are you?" "I am precisely where I ought to be," I stated, "far, far away from you, just as you wished. But I did not want this. I did not want you to actually go away. I was just furious. I did not mean it." There it was, Ayana's classic tactic, downplaying the hurt she had inflicted, attempting to make me feel guilty for my reaction to her cruelty. "You did not mean it when you told me your greatest birthday wish was for my death," I questioned her, "because you sounded utterly convincing. I was just overwhelmed. Jabari lost his job again. The children are causing trouble at school. I'm so incredibly stressed. I should not have directed it at you." "You are right. You should not have. But you did. And those words cannot be unsaid. But Mom, please return. We need you. I need you." How fascinating. Now she needed me. Now that she had seen the letter detailing all the financial support she had just lost. Now that she was aware she might lose her home. Now that she realized she would have to cover her own health insurance and arrange for a babysitter for the twins and... "Do you need me? Or do you need my money?" I asked her pointedly. A long pause hung on the other end of the line. "I need you," she finally whispered, but her voice lacked conviction. "Ayana, for 45 years, my life revolved around you. I gave up my dreams, my finances, my time, and my opportunities. And when I finally needed to feel your love and appreciation, you told me you would rather I were dead. Those words fractured my heart in a way that can never be mended. I'm sorry, Mom. I am so very sorry. Sorry is not sufficient, Ayana. The harm has been done. And you know what? Perhaps it was the greatest thing you could have said to me because it finally forced my eyes open and made me realize I have been living my life completely wrong. What do you mean? I mean that for the first time in many decades, I am living for myself, and it feels absolutely incredible. Where are you, Mom? Please tell me, Ayana pleaded, her voice thick with tears. The children are asking for their grandma. They cannot understand why you have not come to visit them. It was amazing how, now that I was no longer available, the grandchildren suddenly missed me. For all those years, when I would drop my own plans to watch them, when I bought them expensive presents, when I took them to the park so Ayana could go shopping, it was merely what was expected of me. But now that I was gone, my absence was deeply felt. The children will be fine, I replied, my gaze fixed on the distant Ghanaian coastline. They are resilient. What they will come to understand is that actions have consequences and that venomous words can irrevocably shatter relationships. But Mom, please, you can't just vanish like this. What if something happens to you? What if you fall ill? How will we ever know? Now she was concerned for my welfare. How very convenient. Ayana, in the last 6 years, I have experienced 3 episodes of high blood pressure that landed me in the hospital. Do you know how many times you came to see me? 0. You always had something more pressing to do. So please do not come to me now feigning concern for my health. That is not true, she weakly objected. It is true. The first time I was admitted, I called you from the emergency room. You informed me you could not come because of a hair appointment. The second time was Jabari's birthday, and you were celebrating. The third time, you simply did not pick up the phone. The silence on her end of the line confirmed that she recalled each and every instance perfectly. I did not think it was serious, she mumbled. Of course, because my health was never a priority for you, but my checks certainly were. This is not about the money, Ayana yelled. This is about you. I miss you, Mom. Do you miss me? Or do you miss having someone on call 24/7 to fix all of your problems? I disconnected the call without awaiting her answer. The phone immediately rang again, but this time I switched it off completely. I needed tranquility to savor my first evening of true freedom. That night, I dined alone at a sophisticated restaurant by the sea. I selected the most extravagant dish on the menu, salmon with caviar priced at $85, and I savored an entire bottle of French wine. It had been years since I'd indulged in such a luxury, always believing that the money could be better used for Ayana. The next day, Friday, I powered on my phone to discover 50 missed calls and 25 text messages, all from Ayana and Jabari. The tone of the messages shifted from pleading to threatening. Please, Mom, answer, the initial one read. We are so very worried. The 5th message stated, if you do not answer, we are going to contact the police. The 10th one threatened, we have already called the police. They informed us there is nothing they can do since you left a letter explaining your departure. The 15th one confessed, the bank contacted us. You closed the joint account. How are we supposed to pay for emergencies? The 20th one said, it was fascinating to see how the concern for my welfare so quickly morphed into panic about the financial fallout of my absence. I chose to reply to just one message. I am fine. I am exactly where I ought to be at Nispo. Do not search for me. The reply arrived in under 10 minutes. You do not grasp what you are doing. You are going to destroy us. The mortgage attorney called us. He says you have the right to take our house. There it was, the truth. She was not concerned that I might be in pain or in peril. She was concerned because she had finally grasped the financial consequences of losing me. I responded, now you finally comprehend what it costs to have me in your life. It is a pity you realized it far too late. That afternoon, I had my appointment with the Ghanaian financial advisor. He was an older, highly professional man named Mr. Drayton, who assisted me in understanding all my options for permanent residency in Ghana. With your current savings and your American pension, he clarified, you can live very comfortably here for the remainder of your life. Ghana offers excellent health care programs for retired expatriates, and the quality of life is truly exceptional. For the first time in many years, I discussed my finances openly, without the burden of saving for Ayana's potential emergencies. It was profoundly liberating to plan my expenses based entirely on my own needs and wants. You can also invest a portion of your savings in the Ghanaian economy, Mr. Drayton added. The returns are both stable and secure. In 6 years, you could potentially double your assets if you invest shrewdly. Double my assets. How many times had I been presented with that opportunity? But I had always chosen to spend the money on my daughter's whims instead. Is there anything else I should know? The advisor inquired. We have many clients in situations much like yours, older individuals who have moved to Ghana seeking a fresh start after challenging family dynamics. You are certainly not alone in this journey. That piece of information brought me profound comfort. I was not the only mother who had been manipulated and then discarded by ungrateful children. There existed an entire community of people who had prioritized their own happiness over the toxic demands of their families. On Saturday morning, I became part of a hiking group for seniors. There were 10 women and 5 men, all ranging from 62 to 78 years old, all in search of adventure and new experiences. During the bus trip, I started a conversation with a woman named Auntie, a 73-year-old from Nigeria who had moved to Ghana 3 years prior. "What brought you here?" she asked me as we took in the scenery from our window. A daughter who informed me that her greatest birthday desire was for me to die. I replied without any filter. I no longer possessed the energy to soften the harsh reality. Danai's eyes widened in shock. Seriously? Completely seriously. After I financed her home, practically raised her children, and sacrificed my own retirement for her needs, she told me that my presence in her life was an unbearable burden. "My goodness," Danai whispered, "and what did you do?" Exactly what she requested. I vanished from her life, and now here I am. Danai smiled with deep admiration. "You are incredibly brave. It took me 6 years to finally make the choice to distance myself from my toxic family. My son and daughter-in-law treated me like a walking ATM." For the remainder of the day, Danai and I exchanged our stories. She had relocated to Ghana after realizing that her adult children only ever reached out when they needed funds for their vacations, their new vehicles, or their extravagant whims. When she finally decided to establish boundaries, they accused her of being a selfish mother and threatened to prevent her from seeing her grandchildren. The first few months were incredibly difficult, Danai admitted as we explored a medieval town. The guilt consumed me. I thought that maybe I was truly selfish, that a good mother should always sacrifice for her children. "And what shifted your perspective?" I inquired. I came to the realization that my children never once asked if I was happy, if I had sufficient money for my own needs, or if my constant sacrifices were taking a toll on me. They only cared about what I could provide for them. That is not love, Imani. That is exploitation. Her words struck a deep chord within my heart. For decades, I had mistaken emotional manipulation for filial affection and constant demands for genuine need. That evening in my apartment, I made the choice to turn on my phone for the final time in several days. I had 65 missed calls and 50 text messages. The majority were from Ayana and Jabari, but a few were from unknown numbers. I reviewed the text messages in chronological order, witnessing the progression of my daughter's panic. The initial messages were still emotional. "Please, Mom, please come home. We need you. The children are crying for you." However, they progressively became more frantic and financially focused. "The bank has scheduled a meeting with us for Friday. They're saying that as the co-signer, you have the right to reclaim the house. They can't just take our home away over a misunderstanding." By the 6th day, the messages had turned aggressive. "This is absurd, Mom. You are destroying our lives because of a temper tantrum. Act like an adult and come back." And finally, desperate. "I have called every hospital, the police, and all your friends. Nobody knows where you are. If something happens to you, it will be all my fault. Please just let me know you are all right." It was remarkable to see how at no point did Ayana offer a genuine apology for wishing me dead. At no point did she ever acknowledge the cruelty of her words or show true remorse. Everything centered on the negative repercussions her absence was having on her. I chose to send one last message. I am perfectly fine and happier than I have been in many years. What you are currently facing are the direct consequences of your own actions. I hope this situation helps you appreciate the value of the people you love before it is too late with others in your life. The reply came almost instantly. Please, brace. Mom, we can fix this. I swear I will never say such horrible things again. Just come home. I typed my final reply. Empty promises cannot mend a shattered heart. Ayana, the words you spoke to me exposed what you truly think of me. You cannot retract that truth with desperate pledges. After sending that message, I blocked her number and all numbers associated with Jabari. I also blocked the unknown numbers that had been contacting me. It was time to permanently close that chapter. On Tuesday morning, I met with Mr. Drayton again to sign the documents that would grant me permanent residency in Ghana. I also initiated arrangements to transfer my American pension permanently and to begin the process of selling my apartment back home. Are you certain you want to make this permanent? He inquired. It is a very significant decision. I have never been more certain of anything in my entire life, I responded, signing each paper with a steady hand. For the first time in decades, I am making choices based on my own happiness, not on the demands of others. That afternoon, I received a call from Tamika, my dear neighbor and partner in crime. Her voice was filled with excitement. Imani, you must hear this, she said. Ayana showed up at my apartment yesterday, crying hysterically. She begged me to tell you to return, claiming it was all a terrible misunderstanding. And what did you say to her? I asked. I told her the truth, that what she said to you was unforgivable and that if I were in your shoes, I would have disappeared forever too. You should have seen the look on her face when she realized that even her neighbors were aware of how cruelly she had treated you. Did she mention anything about her financial troubles? I inquired curiously. Oh, absolutely. She told me that without your assistance, they cannot afford the mortgage, that the bank is putting immense pressure on them, that Jabari cannot secure a stable job, and that the kids need school supplies they cannot afford. Essentially, she finally understood everything you did for them only after she had lost it all. It was precisely what I had anticipated. She did not miss me as a person. She missed my role as a financial supporter and a problem solver. Tamika, I told her, when anyone asks about me, especially Ayana, I want you to tell them that I am dead to them, because in a way, it is the truth. The Imani who endlessly sacrificed herself for an ungrateful daughter truly did die on her birthday. I understand completely, Tamika replied. And you know what? I believe it is the best death you could have ever chosen. 4 weeks following my arrival in Ghana, my new existence had begun to flourish in ways I had never conceived. I had registered for TWI classes 4 days a week. I had started a watercolor painting class on Wednesdays and Fridays and had become a member of a book club for expatriates that gathered on Saturdays. For the first time in many years, my schedule was packed with activities I had personally selected, activities that brought me genuine joy and personal fulfillment. But the most astonishing development was my finances. Without Ayana's relentless financial pressures, my savings were not only holding steady, but they were actually increasing. The investments I had made with Mr. Drayton were already yielding positive results, and for the first time, I could plan my financial future based entirely on my own needs. On that Friday morning, as I enjoyed breakfast at my preferred seaside cafe, I received a call from an unfamiliar international number. I was hesitant to answer, but my curiosity won out. Mrs. Imani Calloway? A female voice with an American accent inquired. Yes, this is she. Who is speaking? My name is Sana Hightower. I am a social worker with the Family Services Department in your hometown. I am calling because we have received a complaint regarding your well-being. My blood turned to ice. A complaint? What sort of complaint? Your daughter, Ayanna Calloway, has lodged a complaint asserting that you might be suffering from dementia or cognitive decline and have been making financial and life choices that place you in danger. According to her statement, you vanished abruptly and are now living in unsafe conditions overseas. I was in utter disbelief. Ayanna had resorted to the extreme measure of involving social services, fabricating a mental illness to nullify my decisions and compel my return. Miss Hightower, I stated in a firm tone, I am not suffering from dementia or any cognitive decline. I am residing in Ghana by my own volition in a comfortable apartment with excellent medical facilities and in perfect mental condition. My daughter's claims are entirely baseless. I understand your stance, Mrs. Calloway, but we are required to confirm your well-being. Would it be feasible to arrange a medical and psychological assessment through the American consulate in Ghana? Of course, I answered without a moment's pause. I am prepared to undergo any evaluation necessary to prove that I am in perfect mental health and that my decisions were made with absolute clarity. After arranging the evaluation details, I hung up the phone, feeling a turbulent mix of fury and astonishment. Ayanna had crossed an irrevocable boundary. Not only had she wished me dead, but now she was attempting to demolish my mental credibility to seize back control over my finances and my life. I immediately contacted my lawyer, Jamal, back in my hometown. Imani, he greeted me with concern. I am so relieved to hear your voice. I have had a very eventful week dealing with your daughter. I am sure you have. I just finished speaking with social services. Ayanna is accusing me of having dementia. That is not all. Jamal sighed. She has also engaged another lawyer to attempt to contest all the legal adjustments you made before your departure. She is claiming that you were not of sound mind when you signed those documents. Can she do that? She can certainly try, but she lacks a solid legal foundation. I have recordings of all our conversations where you clearly exhibit complete lucidity. Furthermore, the fact that you meticulously organized your departure and are now living independently in Ghana directly refutes any claims of cognitive decline. What else has she been doing? She has attempted to access your bank accounts, claiming concern for your welfare. She also sought to halt the process of reclaiming the house, but since everything is legally sound and she herself signed the papers acknowledging Jabari's job loss, she has no valid arguments. It was astounding how far Ayanna was prepared to go to recover the financial advantages she had forfeited. Jamal, I want you to draft a defamation lawsuit against my daughter. Her false accusations regarding my mental health could damage my reputation and my legal rights. It would be my absolute pleasure, Jamal responded with satisfaction. After witnessing how she has treated you, I believe it is high time she faced the legal repercussions of her actions. 3 days later, I presented myself at the American consulate in Accra for the medical and psychological assessments. The American doctor who evaluated me was an older, seasoned professional who quickly grasped the situation. Mrs. Calloway, he informed me after a comprehensive 4-hour evaluation, not only are you in perfect mental health, but the decisions you have made show remarkable clarity and courage. Your daughter is transparently trying to manipulate the legal system to regain financial benefits. Will that be officially recorded? Absolutely. I will be sending a thorough report to social services detailing that her claims are without merit and that you are leading an independent and healthy life in Ghana. That very afternoon, I got a call from the social worker. Mrs. Calloway, we have received the medical report from the consulate. It is evident that your daughter's accusations are baseless. We will be closing the case and informing Ayanna that her complaints were unfounded. Thank you, I said. Will this go on some kind of record? Yes, it will be noted that she filed a false report concerning a family member's well-being, which could have legal consequences should it happen again. Perfect. Ayanna had not only failed in her attempt to invalidate my choices, but she now had an official record of filing false claims. That evening, I decided to do something I had been postponing. I wrote an open letter detailing my entire ordeal, not for Ayanna, but for other mothers who might be enduring similar situations of manipulation and emotional abuse from their adult children. I wrote for 5 straight hours, chronicling every sacrifice I had made, every manipulation I had withstood, and every action I had taken to reclaim my dignity and my life. The result was a 22-page letter I titled, "When a Mother's Love Becomes Self-Destruction, My Story of Liberation at 72. I chose to submit the letter to an online blog I had found that focused on stories of older women who had summoned the courage to radically transform their lives. 2 weeks later, I got an enthusiastic reply from the editor. "Auntie," she wrote, "your story is incredibly powerful and inspiring. We have already received hundreds of comments from women who identify completely with your experience. Would you be open to participating in a video interview for our YouTube channel?" I agreed without hesitation. It was time to leverage my experience to aid other women who were ensnared in toxic family situations. The interview was released 3 weeks later and rapidly gained viral attention. Thousands of women shared comparable stories of adult children who emotionally manipulated and financially exploited them. The comments section became a repository of pain and mutual understanding. My 42-year-old son lives in my home, pays no rent, and shouts at me when I ask him to find a job, one woman shared. My daughter only contacts me when she needs money for her vacations, but she never has time to visit when I am ill, another wrote. I believed I was the only mother who felt used by her own children, a third admitted. But the most significant development occurred a week after the interview's release. I received an email from an address I recognized instantly. It was from Jabari, my former son-in-law. "Imani," he wrote, "I watched your interview on YouTube. I need you to understand that I am in complete agreement with you. What Ayana said to you was inexcusable, and the way she has treated you for years is unacceptable. I have personally witnessed how she manipulates and uses you, but I never found the courage to challenge her because we were so reliant on your financial support." He went on, "I want you to know that the children miss you terribly and cannot understand why you no longer visit. Ayana has told them that you are unwell and unable to travel, but I think they deserve to know the truth when they are older." The email concluded, "I realize it is likely too late for apologies, but I wanted you to be aware that at least one person in this family recognizes how poorly we treated you and how much you sacrificed for us. I hope you are truly happy in your new life." I read the email 3 times before I determined how to reply. Finally, I composed my response. "Jabari, I appreciate your candor, but belated apologies do not undo the harm that has been done. I hope this experience helps you become a better husband and father, and that you teach your children to cherish the people who love them before it is too late." It marked the first time anyone in my family had openly acknowledged the abuse I had endured. It did not alter my decision to remain distant, but it provided me with a sense of validation I had needed for years, and my new life in Ghana was thriving in ways I had never foreseen. I had genuine friends who valued me for who I was, not for what I could offer. I had hobbies and passions that I had rediscovered. I had peace of mind and financial security. And most importantly, I had my dignity. 7 months after I settled in Ghana, my life had assumed a form I never could have imagined. On a perfect spring morning, I received a call that would once again change everything. It was Tamika, my dear neighbor and collaborator. "Imani," she exclaimed, her voice buzzing with excitement, "you must hear this. Ayana has lost the house." My heart momentarily seized. Despite everything, a part of me still felt a pang of concern for my grandchildren's welfare. "What exactly transpired?" I inquired. "The bank foreclosed on the mortgage last week. Jabari was unable to find steady employment. They fell behind on their payments, and with you as the co-signer exercising your legal rights, the bank moved forward with the foreclosure. Ayana came to me yesterday, absolutely hysterical. And the children? They are fine. They have relocated to a small apartment across town. Jabari finally secured a position at a factory, earning significantly less than before, but it is at least a stable income, and Ayana has also had to return to work. It was a strange cocktail of emotions I felt. There was no joy in their misfortune, but a profound sense of justice. For the very first time in their lives, Ayana and Jabari were facing the genuine consequences of their choices without a safety net to rescue them. "Is there anything else?" Tamika added. "Ayana asked me if I knew how to get in touch with you. She said she wants to offer a sincere apology, that she finally grasps everything she forfeited when she lost you." "And what did you tell her?" "I told her that some wounds are too profound to ever heal and that some words can never be retracted. I also mentioned that you are thriving in your new life and that it is likely for the best for both of you if she does not attempt to contact you." Tamika was correct. Over these 7 months, I had cultivated an inner peace I was unwilling to jeopardize for hollow promises from a daughter who had repeatedly demonstrated that she only valued me when she was in need. That afternoon, I got an unforeseen call from my lawyer, Jamal. "Imani, I have some fascinating news," he announced. "Ayana's house has been officially sold by the bank, and because you were the co-signer, you are entitled to the recovery of your initial investment of $155,000 plus the accrued interest." "How much is that in total?" $190,000. The bank has already authorized the transfer. The funds will be in your Ghanaian account by next week." It was incredible. Not only had I recouped my original investment, but I had also gained an additional $35,000. This was money that would have been gone forever had I persisted in my role as the ever-sacrificing mother. "There is also something else," Jamal went on. "Your apartment in your hometown has finally been sold. After commissions and fees, the net proceeds are $100,000. In total, I was about to receive nearly $300,000 in assets I had considered lost. Combined with my existing savings and the investments I had made in Ghana, my total net worth now surpassed $550,000. At 72 years old, I was wealthier than I had ever been in my entire life. That evening, I celebrated at my favorite seaside restaurant. I ordered a bottle of French champagne and raised a toast to the courageous woman who had dared to begin anew when all seemed hopeless. As I dined, I reflected on the entire journey. I had embarked on this path as a broken and humiliated mother, shattered by the cruel words of an ungrateful daughter. But now, I stood as an independent woman, financially secure, surrounded by true friends, and living the life I had always dreamed of. The following day, I resolved to undertake something I had been contemplating for weeks, to write a complete book about my experience. This would not be just my story, but a practical handbook for older women who found themselves ensnared in toxic family relationships. I reached out to a Ghanaian publisher that focused on self-help and personal development books. The editor, a woman named Kiara, was immediately captivated. "Imani," she expressed during our meeting, "your story addresses a subject that impacts millions of women but is seldom discussed openly. Emotional abuse by adult children is a pervasive issue that desperately needs to be brought to light." I dedicated the next 4 months to writing When Love Hurts, Liberating Yourself from Family Emotional Abuse After 70. The book chronicled not only my personal journey, but also offered practical methods for identifying manipulation, establishing healthy boundaries, and discovering the courage to prioritize one's own well-being. The book was released 9 months later and soared to become a bestseller in several European nations. The letters I received from my readers were truly astounding. Women from across the globe wrote to me, sharing how my story had empowered them to make drastic changes in their own lives. I read your book and finally understood that I am not a bad mother for refusing to continue funding my 38-year-old son's irresponsibility, wrote Callista from Spain. Your story helped me realize that true love does not demand self-annihilation. Nyla from Mexico shared with me, "After reading your book, I sold my large house and relocated to a small apartment I can manage without relying on my children's assistance. For the first time in years, I can sleep peacefully," Zuri from Argentina revealed. However, the most moving letter arrived a year and a half after the book's publication. It was from a young mother named Layla. "Mrs. Calloway," she began, I am 32 years old and have a 66-year-old mother who has sacrificed her entire life for me and my siblings. After reading your book, I realized that we are treating her exactly as Ayanna treated you. Your story opened my eyes and made me see that I was perpetuating a toxic cycle that could ruin my relationship with my mother forever. Yesterday, I called my mom and apologized for all the years I took her for granted. I also told her that I want to help her achieve her own dreams instead of expecting her to always be available for mine. Thank you for helping me understand this before it was too late. That letter brought tears of joy to my eyes. My suffering had served a purpose, to help prevent other families from experiencing the same kind of devastation. 2.5 years after I first arrived in Ghana, I found a physical letter in my mailbox. The script on the envelope was familiar, yet I could not immediately identify it. As I unfolded it, my heart stopped. It was from my grandchildren, who were now 13 years old. "Dear Grandma Amani," they had written in a youthful hand, "Dad explained the real reason why you left. He told us that Mom said some very hurtful things to you, and that is why you chose to start a new life so far away. We want you to know that we miss you very much, and we understand why you had to leave. We also want you to know that we are so proud of you for being so courageous. When we are grown up, we would love to visit you in Ghana, if you would like us to. We love you, Grandma." The letter was signed by both twins and included drawings they had made of me living contentedly on the Ghanaian coast. I wept for an entire hour after reading that letter, not from sorrow, but from the profound understanding that my choice to protect my dignity had been the correct one, even though it meant distancing myself from people I loved dearly. I decided to write back to them. "My dearest grandchildren," I wrote, "your words are the most precious gift I have received in years. I love you both deeply, and I always will, regardless of the distance between us. When you are older and can make your own choices, the doors to my heart and my home will always be open for you. Until that time, I want you to know that your grandma is living a complete and joyful life, surrounded by beauty and tranquility. Cherish the love you feel for me, but also learn from this experience. Words possess the power to either build or to destroy, and relationships are founded on mutual respect, not on one-sided sacrifice. I love you with all my heart." Today, 4 years after that dreadful birthday that forever altered my life, I am seated on my balcony in Accra, gazing at the sea as I pen the final words of my story. I am now 76 years old, with assets exceeding $650,000, a best-selling book, cherished friends from all corners of the globe, Auntie, and an inner serenity I never believed I would find again. Ayanna requested as a birthday gift that I vanish from her life. I granted her that wish in the most stunning way imaginable. What she never anticipated was that by losing me, she not only lost a mother who adored her without condition, but she also lost the very person who had maintained the stability of her financial world for decades. My disappearance became my gift to her. My new life became my gift to myself, and it was worth every single tear, every sacrifice, and every moment of agony that led me to this place. Because sometimes, the only way to save yourself is to find the courage to lose yourself entirely in order to be reborn as the person you were always destined to become. Did you enjoy my story, and from which city are you tuning in? Let's connect in the comments. If this story resonated with you, you can show your support by sending a super thanks, which helps me to continue bringing more stories like this one. Thank you so much for your wonderful support. I am eagerly awaiting your thoughts on the story. On the screen, you will find 2 new life stories that I strongly recommend. There is so much more available on my channel. Please remember to subscribe. See you in the next life story with love and respect.